What is it going to take for Australia to be beaten? I wonder if it's New Zealand that has found that piece of the puzzle that might knock them off the top of that podium.
What is the secret? Tell me.
We're not afraid to take a risk or to do an extra manoeuvre to try and get a pass.
Yeah, this is the danger angle in Australia. They've got to keep clear.
He is ruthless.
In New Zealand! Oh my word!
They dip it!
Looks at the race and the fleet and is like, this is what I need to do to win.
Oh, he's had a huge one. Might have broken his nose.
I guess they found a chink in the armour of the fleet.
They strategically put Liv in between us, I think, to keep us apart.
Before we even start the racing here, he's down 4 points.
The events that have happened here have hit everyone on this team pretty hard, especially considering everything that's going on back home.
Man, in my mind, there's still a lot of racing to go.
If you're doing something differently, you're obviously uncovered something.
Next event, we're going to Sydney. Before Copenhagen, we did a little challenge with Hans with some Danish slang, and seeing as Australia is where I'm from, we're going to do the same thing here with some Aussie slang. You ready, mate?
Yeah.
Bottle-o.
Bottle-o.
Yeah.
Is that a beer?
It's
Bottle
got to
beer?
do with bottles of beer. Do you want to use it in a sentence?
Yeah.
Mate, can we just swing by the Bottle-o?
Oh, it's a bar.
It is a place you drive through to buy beer.
We need to try that then.
Yeah. A snag. Chuck a couple snags on a barbie.
Sausages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Budgie smugglers.
Yeah, that's swim shorts.
Yeah.
The small ones.
All good.
Have a pair. Tom introduced me.
Exy. We're in the shopping centre, you want to buy something, and I'm like, mate, it's a bit exy.
Oh, it's like it's a bit rotten. It's a bit like bad.
Exy.
Experimental?
Expensive.
No, expensive.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, I got it.
It's
Yeah, expensive. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
A schnitty.
A schnitty, that's a schnitzel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Pounded beef, no pork.
I'm Peter Burling from Tauranga in New Zealand. I first went sailing down in Tauranga, pretty young. I was about 8 years old when I first started getting into it. And my dad had done the most sailing. He sailed probably up to when he was about 18 and then didn't sail until actually my brother, who was a bit older than me, got into it. But yeah, then I was kind of getting dragged along and got into it from there. I got no idea what advice I'd give myself 10 years ago, but I think just to keep having fun, keep enjoying it, and just see where it takes you. Yeah, the first boat I ever had was actually called Jelly Tip. It didn't last very long. It was not the best boat, but yeah, good fun to learn with, and pretty chuck it up on the beach and do whatever. I'm not even sure I've had a real job, to be fair. I've done a lot of yachting, done a lot of little bits and pieces, but we'll never really say I've had a real job. So many cool spots for such different reasons. Small boats, obviously Lake Garda's always pretty special. On this circuit we've had some pretty amazing memories. Some cool, amazing cities like Chicago. Yeah, I think the perfect conditions for sailing a F50 is anything windy enough that everyone's foiling. People always ask, who inspires you, and for me, it's any Kiwi doing cool things on the world stage. Yeah, I'm not sure where I see myself in 10 years' time. Right now I'm really enjoying competing in this league and also splitting my time a little bit with the America's Cup. So, that's probably like a 5-year outlook. Just see where it takes me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I have like no experience at all.
This is the data center.
Everyone has access to everything.
What could possibly go wrong? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's going to be like a drag race. I think we're good to go. He's on the inside. Turning up. Hey Max, we're going to have a steer mode. Basically just we're going to steer straight. What's it feel like to the car? It's a completely different experience, but it's really cool. To jump on in. Nice, mate. Nice pressure outlet. See, just locked. Port's gone.
This has just been once in a lifetime opportunity. I've only ever dreamt racing against these athletes.
You learn so much every single time you go out on the water.
It's really cool to be at the beginning of the story and learn about the boat. It's pretty cool.
I really want to be the best sailor I can be.
And we see CJ Perez there, just 18 years old.
A year ago, it's crazy to think I was with Inspire and now I'm with the British team. Hopefully a lot more will follow in my footsteps.
Three, 2, 1, go, go, go. Ah! Ah! You alright, Georgia? Too high, guys, again. Gotta get these windward boards up. Nothing wrong with the button. Don't overreact. Okay, yep, that's alright. Nowhere near, nowhere near. Oh, you're kidding! Invert, please. Invert, come on. Can we sail the boat well? Yeah. Gonna have to get rules at GBR. Get hell, throw this then. Nice and smooth here, let's settle it down. We're over. No, we're not. Oh, we are. Calling the tech team, we have snapped the rudder. Hey, hold hands, go all the way, just feel the pain. Protesta, protesta, protesta. Nice, mate. Good job. That's work. That was good, mate. That was sick.
Hola, muy buenas. Living the dream. We're in. See you guys. And we're in. Nice one. Woo! Whoa! Yes, team!
They say that I'm such a weirdo. Tattoos from my toes to my earlobe. Was a role model, I never had a hero. I learned how to live through the stereo. Coming from where I come from, the inferior. Everything you see ain't what it appears though. Everything that I built made that from zero, then added a zero. I am my hero. You couldn't imagine what it's like in my mind. It's beauty and catastrophe at the same time. Remember they laughed at me when it was game time. Now I know that they mad at me. I'm what you can't find. I'm not from the day. I come alive at night. I'm not what you used to. Couldn't recognize. They all on the ground while I'm taking flight. And you're welcome to join me. I promise I won't bite.
Things they say, they're never getting in my way. And even if I make mistakes, I will always see them through.
I don't fit in with the imposters. I'm taking the mask off, prepare your conscience, prepare for honest, cut off all the nonsense. I'm all of your chakra, wonder who shot you. Go call the doctor, boom like the chopper. Don't you get chopped up, I'm here to stop you. Whoever wants smoke like a roster, break you off proper.
Things they say, they're never getting in my way. And even if I make mistakes, I will always see them through. Cause I don't wanna play your game. I had enough, I'm burning up so hot I just break your chain. You can never stop, it's building up inside of me. Play your game. I had enough, I'm burning up so hot I just break your chain. You can never stop, it's building up inside of me.
They say that I'm such a weirdo, tattoos from my toes to my earlobe.
Can never stop, it's building up inside of me.
They say that I'm such a weirdo, tattoos from my toes to my earlobe.
Can never stop, it's building up inside of me. Can never stop, it's building up.
Welcome to the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. Now, the Kiwis are craning in for their first ever event on home waters. The great news for this weekend is that we're going to have all 9 teams on the start line come Saturday. The tech team have done an absolutely amazing job working hard to get all boats on the water. We know that it's been a tough couple of weeks from them since the damage in Sydney, so I'm going to walk around and have a chat and see what it took to get everybody out there. Well, Joel, you and your team have been busy, but absolutely brilliant effort to get all 9 boats on the water. Maybe paint us a picture of how it has been from your side.
It's been quite the ordeal, coming off the back of the damage from the lightning strike with New Zealand and then the Canadian damage. So it's been a big group effort for all the way through for SailGP Technologies back in the factory and also all of us here on the tech site.
When did you know that 9 boats you were going to get out there?
Well, to be honest, probably yesterday or today. We still have someone flying with some standing rigging. So we're still jumping through some hoops, but it's looking good and all the structural repairs are done.
And you said you were working around the clock. How's the team feeling? Are they tired or are they just excited to see that everyone will be racing this weekend?
I think today's a bit of a new lease of life and a little bit of motivation, seeing some boats go in the water after the big effort. So I think everyone's pretty happy about that.
Oh, congrats to you and your team, and thanks for all the hard work that you guys do.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, guys.
Joel. It's important to SailGP to protect sea life, and here in Littleton Harbour we have Hector's dolphins. Now, these dolphins are critically endangered. They're the smallest and rarest dolphins in the world. So part of our protection plan is that we have spotters on land, we have aerial spotters as well, and we also have these buoys behind me. Now, these are acoustic monitoring buoys so that we know if the dolphins have come into the harbour and we can pause the F50s, clear the area and make sure that the sea life stays safe. So I'm here in front of the Kiwi tent, and the good news for them is that they've got their original hull back. Amakura is back after the lightning strike in Singapore, and it looks like the team is about to hit the water for the first time in New Zealand. So let's head on in and see if we can have a chat and see how they're feeling about racing at home. Oh, well, Blair, home event, how much are you looking forward to racing in front of a home crowd?
Oh, we're so excited. It's been a long time coming, so yeah, the team's pumped. The atmosphere's really building here, and yeah, it's a lot riding on it for the, not just being a home event, but the important part of the season, so we're ready to roll.
And you had a traditional Maori welcome yesterday. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, it was an awesome pool footy yesterday where Ngati Whiki, the local iwi here, welcomed all the international teams and SailGP. You know, the Māori culture is an awesome one, and it was nice to be able to open that up to internationals. Yeah, it was a really awesome morning, and I know that international teams really loved it. It was cool for us too.
And good news is you've got Amakura back this week. Are you excited to go sailing on her today?
Yeah, we certainly are. It's you know, a little bit of apprehension just with being all the new systems, and you know, hopefully that goes smoothly. But it's nice we can get on the water today and run through the systems and make sure she's going good. But yeah, it's you know, it's the boat that we've done pretty much a whole journey on SailGP on. So to have it here for this weekend in Christchurch is important for us.
Enjoy your sailing. Good luck this week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Blair. So I've just heard, unfortunately, due to high winds that are forecast here tomorrow in Christchurch, that there will be no practice racing ahead of the weekend. So teams will be coming in hot and having to go in all guns blazing for racing this weekend. Now, the Australian team, they still have a healthy lead at the top of the podium. I think it's almost mathematically impossible that they can miss that final in San Francisco. But they have been a little bit out of form for the last couple of events, not winning in a while. So let's see if we can grab someone, have a chat and see if they're looking forward to racing here in Christchurch.
Yeah, it's cool. It's beautiful backdrop. You know, it's very different to a few of the venues we've had, but it looks beautiful out there and can't wait to get on the water for sure.
That's a little bit tricky, obviously. Not much practice going into this weekend event. Do you think that might suit you guys? Because, you know, you're a slick unit.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could work for us. We normally have a bad day than a good day. So, you know, so hopefully Saturday's our bad day, but not too bad. Then we can go into Sunday and get some good results and get the one that counts this stuff.
Do you think it would feel good if you could beat the Kiwis on home waters?
Yeah, it's going to feel good when we beat the Kiwis for sure.
One thing at this tech side is quarters are tight and the teams are sharing 10s. Now, there's a lot of blue around me because we've got the USA team sharing with the French team. Now, they're coming off fine form in Sydney after those 3 wins in race day 1. So let's head on in and have a chat how they're feeling going into this weekend's racing. I can see your 2 wheels up there. Are you hoping to add another wheel to the wall?
We have to add a lot of other wheels.
Well, you guys are tactically strong and good in the wind, so you're hoping for lots of wind this weekend?
We don't really care about the wind. I think we are strong in all the condition, but it depends what we can do with the boat and with the wind and everything. But we don't look for a special condition. We just want sail.
And you've got a new team member on board, Ismael. Are you excited to race with her?
Yeah, but we were 1 day of training and it's cancelled. So it will be the first day of sailing. It will be the race, so it will be big stuff for her. She was a fantastic sailor in Accra 17 and a bit bigger boat, but no, it will be fine. And we work with her. Manon work a lot with her on the computer and everything. So I think she will great.
Points are super tight at the top. We've got New Zealand on 61, France on 63, and Emirates, Great Britain on 64. So I know Ben's got to go, so I'm going to try grab him on the way out and see how he's feeling, if his tactics will change for this weekend.
No, it'd be good to start winning a few races and a few events. It's come to that part of the season where you've got to start getting on top. So that's the target.
So we're going to see more aggressive Ben Ainsley this weekend?
I don't know, whatever it takes.
Oh, well, what else? How's the team feeling? Obviously, Sydney was a bit disappointing not having that second day, but are you raring to race?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Sydney was obviously tough event for the whole league, and really amazed with how everyone's pulled together and turned things around to get back on track here for Christchurch. It's seriously impressive when you look at what's been achieved. And yeah, I think everyone's just really looking forward to getting back on the water, get racing, beautiful venue. And of course, it's getting tight, it's getting exciting as we're into the business end of the league.
The Danish team are still well in the hunt for the top 3. They're sitting in 5th, and with the points, they can definitely make that top 3. Now, let's head on in and see if we can find someone and see if they're looking forward to racing in New Zealand. How's your footy skills?
Not that good, to be honest. Not that good. Ready, one hand.
What do you think of the Kiwi fans? Do you reckon they'll come out in force?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, it's in New Zealand, that's their home sport nearly, apart from rugby, so must be plenty of yachties around, keen to come down and watch.
And you guys are still in the hunt for the top 3, so are we going to see any aggression on the racetrack, or is it just chipping away still?
Oh, I think, we really got to make it count, this event. This is kind of, France have extended a little bit, so I think that Nico will come out swinging, I reckon.
All right, well, good luck. I'm excited to watch some racing.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Enjoy your practice. So the United States SailGP team are in 6th overall. They've come off the back of a really good event, finishing 2nd in Sydney. Now, they've also had a few crew change-ups this weekend. There's a bit going on in the fleet. They've got Roan Kirby back on board as a grinder tactician, and they've also got a new female athlete in Cameron Farah. Now, even though points are getting tight, it is going to be quite hard for them to make that final in San Francisco, so they're going to have to come out and really fire this weekend. So with the tight quarters here at SailGP, I think these guys get the award for the best Tetris. We've got 2 hulls in here with the Switzerland and the Canadian boat. Now, the Canadians are absolutely blown away by how the tech team have done such a good job to get their hull back in order, and I'm sure they cannot wait to get racing. So let's see if we can grab someone and have a chat and see how they feel going into this weekend. Will, are you looking forward to getting back racing?
Yeah, definitely. We got to redeem ourselves and come out strong at the end of the season. It's going to be fun.
And Phil, he is representing Canada, but he's got a little bit of Kiwi blood in him. I'm sure he's happy to have a bit of home advantage.
Yeah, I think so. He seems pretty excited to be here. He's got all his family here, and we're going to help him show them how it's done.
So we expect to see you in the top 3 this weekend?
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Because of some of the crew change-ups with the Spanish team and their new driver in Diego Botin, they were one of the lucky ones that got out on the water in Thursday's practice, along with the home team New Zealand. So I want to grab Diego and have a chat to him to see how he's feeling for his 2nd event in SailGP.
Today we're doing laps all the time, and every lap I felt more comfortable. Feels like I need a lot of time on the boat, and yeah, today was a super nice day for it.
Well, we didn't know if you would be racing with all the boats and musical boats and stuff like that, but you must be excited to be able to get on that start line on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, also after all the job all the tech team did, with getting all 9 boats here, we didn't know that we were coming until 1 or 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it's amazing for us to be on the start line on Saturday, and yeah, will be nice.
Now, another thing to watch out for this weekend is that there's been some crew change-ups with the Switzerland SailGP team. Now, they've brought in Glenn Ashby, who was coaching in Sydney, on to trim the wing for them in racing this weekend. Now, Glenn's an amazing, experienced sailor. He won the America's Cup with the New Zealand team, and he's also an Olympic medalist. So Seb's bringing in the big guns, and we'll see if it pays off this weekend.
We're excited. We'd have loved to have a bit of training time, but we'll go straight into it on Saturday, so it should be good.
And sailing in New Zealand, they're big sailing fans down here. You looking forward to that crowd cheering?
Yeah, definitely. I spent quite a bit of time here, came straight after Sydney. And I could see that the Kiwi were really sailing fans, and expecting a lot of people on the hills this weekend, and should be, good fun.
Okay, well, I'll let you get your Uber, and thanks for chatting.
Cheers.
See you soon. After a bit of a wait and plenty of anticipation, we are ready to go racing for the first event in New Zealand. Now, it's going to be tough for a lot of teams having no practice. Obviously, we've had 2 lucky teams with New Zealand and Spain taking to the waters here in Christchurch ahead of racing. Being really interesting to see who that favours, and if teams come out firing, it's going to be tough. There's a few crew change-ups across the fleet, so that'll be hard for a lot of people to be able to just get to that start line and perform without any practice. So the 2 teams behind me, USA and France, have new strategists for this weekend. Now, we know how important that position is, being able to call the boats around this tight racetrack. And given the situation with those points fighting for those top 3, it's going to not really be ideal for these teams. So it'll be interesting to see what their driver, Quentin Delapierre, has to say about that. Quentin, it must be hard going into day 1 of racing with no practice. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, new experience, new SailGP experience for sure.
There's lots of things that you can do to prepare for racing. Is there anything that your team has been doing, extra debriefs or land sailing? Like, what have you guys been doing?
Morning we had a big briefing around how to optimize the just the warm-up timing for tomorrow, and also yesterday we did some dry sailing also for Maël Frascari, who is joining, and yeah, it will be tough, especially for Maël, I think. Jumping on an F50 at the middle of 9 boats, it will be tough.
And points are close, obviously, at the top with overall. Do you have to think about that, or are you going to try and just focus on yourself? I'm
sure that we are third, actually, because we are well focused on ourselves, our performance, and I don't want to change anything for the end of this season. And actually, the opposite would be the best, just to trust the process and our mindset, also keep the energy on board.
Okay, so plans to keep the momentum from Sydney, it sounds like.
Yeah, it will be great to keep the same mindset.
All right, well, thanks, Quentin, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
There hasn't been a lot of sailing going on, but there has been plenty of banter, which we heard in the press conference as things heat up ahead of this weekend's racing.
A guy came up to me on the street the other day and said, "Oh, you're basically the red-headed stepchild of New Zealand." And I took it as a compliment, obviously.
Extending an olive branch there. Anything you want to say to him about trying to knock someone out of that top 3?
We can be bought.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I've just heard that he wants us in the final. That's pretty much what I heard. So yeah, thanks, Tom. We'll take it, and it sounds like we can get a spot at the windward end of the line if he's up there. So we'll take it.
Wedding invites between you and Pete reciprocal?
Oh yeah, no. I was just happy that we beat him to it. You know, another one up on him. But no.
And you genuinely think you guys can take a win here this weekend?
100%. Yeah.
That's a lot of percent. Very nice.
Well, the drivers don't have much knowledge going into this weekend of the race course, and I don't have much to go off ahead of my predictions. So these might be a little bit rogue. I think Denmark are going to sneak into that top 3 and mix up the placings a little bit. I think France will come in second. They've been on form lately. And I think the Kiwis, back with their boat and in front of a home crowd, are going to come in first overall this weekend. Without any training time, teams have had to be a little bit inventive about how they use Thursday and Friday to prepare for racing. Some teams have been tinkering with their F50s, trying to get the best out of their vessel. Other athletes are hitting to the water whichever way they can, including a bit of wing foiling. And some teams have found another way to go racing, with a few taking to some go-karts to get that adrenaline pumping ahead of Saturday's racing. It's going to be a spectacular weekend. We've got the backdrop, we've got 9 boats on the start line. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to tune in wherever you are and subscribe for more content.
From the beginning, Waka and water have brought people together. From the heavens, from distant lands, from around Aotearoa, New Zealand. Our ancestor, Te Raki Whakaputa, claimed whakaraupo for his descendants. Now we, Te Hapu o Ngāti Wheke, are its guardians for ours. The ocean sustains us, carries us, and today it unites us. Let's race.
Stand by. 0, go, go, go. 1, lock. Go wing. Slowly coming away. 2. Here we go. Stay by wheel. You guys alright? Very well sound, everyone.
Kia ora. Welcome to the breathtaking Littleton Harbour on the South Island, New Zealand for the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Christchurch, where the weather is looking good for 2 days of decisive racing in the penultimate event of Season 3. It's the first time SailGP has visited New Zealand, and the forecast is spot on for what's shaping up to be a spectacular weekend of racing. Alongside two-time Olympian and multi-world champion Stevie Morrison, former world champion Emily Nagel, and Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris. And Stevie and Emily, we have seen some good action in the warm-ups today here in this beautiful part of the world.
The scenes have been absolutely incredible. We've had some celebrities out there, the hometown favourites, New Zealand, and yes, straight away, look at that, the rivalry, Australia and New Zealand. Excited to see how that's going to unfold today, Emily.
It's great to see all 9 boats back out on the racecourse and all sailing, but with no practice racing, this is actually their first time back on the water since Sydney.
Well, yeah, and we can see for the newer teams, Switzerland, Spain, we just saw in the background, certainly a big moment. But look at the backdrop. I mean, the shots we've seen so far are incredible. The teams, well, they're going to have to be sharp out the blocks. The conditions are going to demand that, but it's going to be beautiful racing. That's what we're hoping for.
Well, let's take a look at the scoreboard coming into this 10th event of Season 3. It's the two-time reigning and defending champions Australians out in front by 12 over their arch rivals New Zealand, and then France rounding out the top 3. Emirates GBR sitting in that 4th position, 2 points back of the French. Then it's Denmark, United States, and Canada still with a slim chance of making the grand final in San Francisco. And then Spain and Switzerland rounding out the fleet here of Season 3. Well, today we are scheduled for 3 fleet races with an additional 2 fleet races Sunday before the top 3 points will take part in the final race. And this waka just moments ago giving the fans a little bit of a treat as they came by. They packed stands here as we get ready for racing on a picture-perfect day. And a short time ago, Stevie Morrison had the chance to speak with the Kiwis driver, Mr. Peter Burling, on what it means to be racing here in New Zealand.
Hey Pete, looks like incredible scenes down on Littleton Harbour at the moment. Beautiful sailing conditions. So good to see SailGP in Christchurch. What does this mean for New Zealand? What's the importance of this event out there?
Yeah, it's amazing how beautiful a day that's been turned on for us, and I think it's just going to keep building and building as the afternoon goes on. So, in for the configuration by the end of the day, but you know, to see 70,000 people in the stadium cheering us on, and just the support means the world.
Yeah, looks like you got a credible turnout, and of course we know how important sailing is in New Zealand, but we also know how important beating Australians is to New Zealanders, and it's turning into quite the rivalry. So how focused in are you on beating those Aussies now they've come to play in your patch?
Yeah, well, to be honest, today we're just here to try and win the event. Today all we can do is try and put a few low scores on the board and have a good chance to get into that final tomorrow. So we're obviously really excited to be out here, and just the boat seems to be working really well, which is a good positive as well.
Pete, that's great news. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the racing. It's going to be great.
Well, happy to report that New Zealand SailGP are back on board their original boat, which was struck by lightning after the event ended in Singapore. So with a complete rebuild of the electronics and hydraulic systems and repairs made to the boats damaged in Sydney, the fleet is at full strength for Christchurch.
Straight away after the wind event, we're cleared to go on site the following day, and we could get a really good assessment of the damage to the total fleet, really. So we very quickly assessed that the Canadian boat needed quite a lot of work to its hull. The two tents containing all of the wings had a lot of damage. We had essentially 18 pieces of rigging destroyed that needed to be completely replaced, and obviously that's for all of the boats, and we had almost every single wing component with some major damage to it. There's been people in the tech team working from London in the electronics and hydros, and we've had 30 people for a month working on the boats in Auckland. And then you head to the tech site and we've probably got 70 people working, putting it all together and doing all the final repairs. The people in the entire company and the tech team and the technologies team are vital to the boats being on the water and performing and letting the athletes do what they do. The people make the company.
Beautiful day on the South Island. This is the hottest ticket in town. Tickets sold out in a matter of hours as everyone wants to see these high-tech foiling F-50s do their thing. And there are multiple teams that this day cannot come soon enough because they're in desperate need of points.
Emirates GBR haven't been on the podium since Dubai, and their accident in Sydney didn't help their efforts.
Someone's overboard, Todd! Someone's overboard!
Matt Gottrell pushed through to the end despite his injury and helped them limit the scoreboard damage, finishing a respectable 4th overall. This event, though, they'll miss their long-time grinder as they fight for every point.
We brought in Ben Cornish, who's an exceptionally fit grinder.
The underdogs of Season 3 are on form and riding high from their Sydney victory in epic conditions. Not many teams can claim they've won every race so convincingly, and they are now a serious threat for the season title.
What a day for the French. That's got to be their best ever day.
Hopefully in Christchurch we will have the same mindset, because it's now money time and the final is coming.
Technical issues for New Zealand hindered their chance early on in Sydney.
Hey, tech team, we're retiring here. We can't get our starboard board up.
And didn't exactly help with chasing rivals Australia in the overall. They'll be looking to reset and put on a show on home waters. The home team in Sydney didn't set the stage alight and wow their fans, but critically, by finishing 3rd and 3 places clear of New Zealand, they have secured their ticket to the grand final, and they'll still be looking to upset things here in Christchurch.
It's built into the blood of all Aussies that we want to come to New Zealand and beat the Kiwis on their home turf.
Well, the fans have turned out in force on land and on sea. The spectator flotilla with a perfect view of the course. Before we go racing, let's go down on the water. The 4th member of our broadcast team, here is Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin.
We have a beautiful northeasterly wind blowing today in Christchurch. Winds are averaging 25 kilometres per hour, but gusting around 32 kilometres per hour. There is also a bit of an easterly swell, but nothing those flight controllers can't handle. The best wind right now to me looks like over near all those spectator boats, so I'll be interested to see if the fleet favours that side. The tide is also going out, so that might play into the strategy. It's grandstand racing here in Littleton. We're in store for a great day, and now it's time to take a closer look at the course map and see what's in store for racing.
Well, pre-start precision is the key to hitting the line fast and getting away on that straight reach to Mark 1. Here, you'll see the boats split as they can sail off in different directions, trying to choose the fastest course down to gate 2. And at the gate, they've got a big choice to make as they can turn left or right. The leading boats are looking to select the best side of the course with favourable wind. It's a harder decision for those boats behind, though. Remember that sailboats only sail fast when they're sailing at an angle to the wind, so we see them zigzag their way around the course, looking for that fastest route. At each gate, the teams have to try to find some space, and that'll be the top priority to see if they can extend away or move ahead. It's a gusty, shifty wind out here on the water today, so it's a tactician's race course. There'll be opportunity aplenty, but if you find that shortest course, you'll be leading the fleet home to the finish in front of the fans.
So the stage is set for day one of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix, Christchurch here in Littleton Harbour. Fans have made their way down, but we have just received confirmation of a dolphin sighting near the race course. So, in line with SailGP protocol, we have stopped racing to allow the dolphin to pass through safely. Now, SailGP is committed to minimizing risk to the marine environment and has a comprehensive protocol developed in conjunction with local authorities and experts to avoid contact with the wildlife. And for more on that, let's check in down on the water. Lisa Darman, and what do you know?
Well, I'm just off mark 1 at the moment, and unfortunately, yes, we do have a couple of dolphins on the racetrack. They want to come play as well, but unfortunately, it's just the state of play at the moment. The team's had a couple of really good warm-up laps, so I'm sure that they will be raring to go. The wind's looking good, but unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait it out for now. But we are in a mammal sanctuary, and that's just the way we are. We've got beautiful nature surroundings, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. More from you as the day progresses, and we hope to go racing, but racing has stopped temporarily because of possible risks to marine mammals. Race officials are monitoring the conditions and the potential impact on marine mammals, and will provide an update shortly. But all important that we are safe guardians of these dolphins in these very rare waters, and we will respect the wishes of the folks here in New Zealand.
To have confidence that we're keeping a safe distance from the dolphins, we have developed real-time acoustic technology to spot and protect the dolphins who get close to the racetrack. If the dolphins get too close, we will stop and wait for them to pass. SailGP has developed this technology and the protection plan by working alongside conservation experts and with Te Hapu o Ngāti Wheke Rapaki.
Marine mammals are acoustic animals. They use sound for everything in their day-to-day lives. The device that we've been working on for SailGP is the real-time acoustic buoy, and it listens for the sounds of dolphins and then it alerts an operator. The really exciting thing to come out of this with SailGP is it's really fast-tracked the introduction of this technology in New Zealand.
So while we have a pause in racing, all the boats come to an absolute standstill. I want to make sure the dolphins have the opportunity to pass through the course safely as we make sure that everyone just stays put for a while and let them hopefully pass through the course, and we are good to go. And that gives us an opportunity to bounce around the fleet as all the teams will now just do a little debrief and take a moment to prep in case we get started on a quick warning. So we'll go on board first with Team USA. Jimmy Spindle and company. Jimmy, you still have a fighting chance in this thing. How are you guys feeling now with this, with a little bit of a delay before we go racing?
Yeah, hey Todd, good to hear from you, mate. No, we're looking forward to it. I mean, it's just an absolute glamour day here. Course set up beautifully. Be nice to get a little bit of practice in, but it's looking highly likely we're just going to be straight into it.
Well, Jimmy, talking about straight into it, I can see sat behind you there, Cameron Farrow at the back, her first day on an F50. How's she finding it back there?
No problem. She just had her first fall on the boat, so she's now joined our club. We were just talking about our war stories from Sydney, where both Hans and I had a couple of absolute beauties.
Yeah, well,
so she's got that out of the way, and yeah, she'll be thrown in the deep end.
Thrown in the deep end, yeah. Well, you're going to take us back to that first race in Sydney. It was certainly one of the more action-packed races we got to see. A few tight moments. It was a bit of a comeback event for the US team, and gave yourself a chance. How you enjoy that event in Sydney?
It was fantastic. I mean, I think that Saturday was probably some of the best racing we've had all season, you know, in terms of the course and the conditions. Yeah, it was just awesome.
Jimmy, you talk about how great this course is. It's a picture-perfect day. Obviously, we're going to take care of the mammals in this area. So what do you guys do during this time, downtime, as you were so close to racing, but now you have to stand down?
Yeah, I mean, mean, we've just been talking about the course and the way the marks are set up. I mean, what's really unique about this racetrack is that there is a sort of a no-go zone down near the bottom gate. You know, there's these 3 navigational marks that they've virtually blocked off, so you cannot sail between them. And so, yeah, that's really going to create some tactical choices, and there could be opportunities depending on how you pass that kind of obstruction they've set up virtually. So all the boats can see this virtual kind of a go zone on their software.
Jimmy, appreciate the time. We wish you the best of luck today. Hopefully we can see you in action. Jimmy Spithill and the USA SailGP team in holding mode as we let the mammals pass through the course, and hopefully we get racing today, day 1 of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix. But right now we want to take you back to race number 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix in beautiful Sydney, Australia.
See the crews now setting up. That's Shark Island, it's branded Genesis Island to the right of our screen there. That's where all the fans are, and I think that's the end of the line. To see the start line here, the right-hand end on our screen. I think that's where the crew's going to want to be. They've got a minute to get there. Of course, it's a rolling start. Time and distance is absolutely crucial, and right now the positioning is everything. Yesterday in practice, we saw being on the foils from a long way out was fairly key. I like how the New Zealand boat's setting up, expect an aggressive move down the line from them. But New Zealand, Australia, Denmark, they're going to have a run-up, and it's Emirates GBR. They're leading the fleet back. Ainsley likes to have a bit of control.
30 seconds to go before the start of race number 1. 3 races today, 3 more tomorrow. You've got to be in the top 3 to get into that final. And look at Australia in the back coming in.
They're coming in late. They're down there at that favoured end of the line. Aggressive move from New Zealand here. He's going to want to get across the front of the Danes. I think it's, oh my word, great move by New Zealand. He now has control, but he's a little early. It's Emirates GBR and Australia well positioned. Spithill can't find a gap. All about the timing. Watch for the line to turn. White.
Oh, kinds of penalties.
Over the line early, New Zealand.
OCS penalty, New Zealand. Over the line early. No delayed starters.
Well, we thought they weren't going to race. It's going to be Australia leading at Mark 1. Perfect timing. Natural sense of drama for Australia and Tom Slingsby. He's going to lead at Mark 1 with the French and GBR, Emirates GBR, chasing them down.
Slingsby loving a bit of drama, going Hollywood. First we were hearing they wouldn't be on the line, they wouldn't be able to race, and here he is getting the whole shot in race number 1.
Here we go. We see gate 2 looming pretty quickly in the background, Todd. New Zealand, their penalty is to go to the back of the fleet, so they've got a big job ahead of them here. And there, that yellow line, that's our lay line. Slingsby looks to turn there. He's well set up for gate 2, and this is where the crews are going to be learning the course. They can turn left or right through that gate. Yesterday, they liked the idea of turning left. Slingsby's perfectly lined up for that. Who's going to make the right choice here? Who's going to find the most wind after gate 2?
Gate number 2, here we go. The Australians in the lead, and then 3 more boats coming into view. Tight quarters on that left-hand side.
Really tight. Look at the Swiss. They've tried to manoeuvre so late. They put the bow in the water. Wow, close moment. The Canada must keep clear. Drama at the bottom gate there. Emirates GBR slides through. They all avoid each other just, but Switzerland, wow, so close to a capsize. Diego Botín, the Spanish new driver. He's not scared of getting in on the action. Dives through 4th at gate 2, and New Zealand, they're back in the pack. Wow, drama there as Australia, well, they're leading the fleet of the way, and great shot here. We see the dark patches of water showing the gusts, the different wind speeds on the water. It's all happening out there, and it's all now about getting fast.
And a tough break for the Americans. Jimmy Spithill had his eyes on that left-hand side and got stuffed. Let's go on board Switzerland.
Here we go. Board goes down. It's a late turn. It's a fast turn by Seb Schneider on the wheel there, and we can see he just overturns left-hand side. The rudder comes out the water. The boat overheels. They just manoeuvred too late. It's a late decision. All got a bit rushed and all got very, very messy.
So back to racing here, race number 1. It is still Australia out in front, France sitting in 2nd, Emirates GBR in 3rd as they approach the next gate.
Halfway up the leg here, Todd, and the Australian boat's in space, clearly working pretty well at this point. I suppose the question is
the umpires. Penalty Canada, relative Switzerland. Port tack boat not keeping clear.
Pretty basic rule infringement there for the Canadians. Tight when you're back in the pack. I think the difference between being out front, where Australia is they've got space as we see a tight cross. Emirates GBR has the right of way. Wow, last minute dive. It's very messy out there on board these boats. The French, look at that. They're flying high. They're heeling over. Wow, it's a big, again, you could see that coming, Todd. The tricky stuff in this breeze is see things early, try and keep it simple. Easier said than done. A lot easier when you're at the front of the fleet than at the back.
Halfway point of race number 1, it's Australia out in front, Great Britain, France, and the USA has now moved up to 4th place. Canada sits in 5th. Emily?
We've got wind speeds here of 35 kilometers an hour, and that makes the upwind speed targets between 55 and 60 kilometers an hour. So when they are having these tight crosses, they're massive closing speeds. So pretty full on for the French there, having to duck at that pace.
And New Zealand not foiling.
Yeah, it looks like it's something not quite working well with the boat. They're in a borrowed boat here, Todd. This was not their boat after that incident in Singapore. And, well, possibly good news for Australia. That's their closest rival, New Zealand, out the back. And now perfectly lined up along the ley line, perfectly lined up for gate 3. Hey, it's almost a Chicago. So what that means is one of their set play manoeuvres. They try and simplify a complicated manoeuvre with a different name. They're going to turn the boat away from the wind and set up for an early turn very quickly. You'll expect to see Carl Langford run across the boat and set up for another turn.
So just minutes before the start of race number 1, the hometown favorites, the overall leaders, and the defenders of this event say they are not able to sail. They come into the start box. Not only they get to the line, Stevie, first, but they get the lead at mark number 1. And here they are leading halfway done in race number 1. 3 races scheduled for the day. Australia, Great Britain, France, and the USA, your top 4.
Well, I guess they know the course pretty well. And someone else that knows the course well is Emirates Team GBR skipper Ben Ainsley. Won his first gold medal back at the 2000 Olympics here, you know, so that he knows the waters well. But it's tight here. Look, back with the action. The Danes, they're diving inside. They have the right of way there. As Canada, they split away. Switzerland have got themselves back in the race. So despite that drama, they've got themselves back in the action here. And of course, I think for France and Denmark and Emirates GBR, huge event here. We're 3 events away and they're really tight. Another messy manoeuvre on board Switzerland. That wing should be inverted the other way. Oh, it could get gnarly on board that.
Look at the lead. Australia way out in front.
These 3 teams really leading the way downwind. They've got 63 kilometers an hour of average speed on board the Australian boat, while Emirates GBR slightly slower, but more fly time. So they're staying up on the foils a little bit better, chasing down the Australians.
This is the umpires. Penalty Spain, relative Switzerland, not giving room in the boundary.
A windy day and a lot of action for Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell. You'd expect that as everyone's trying to keep the boat, Stevie, safe and away from everyone else. But look at this. Australia just blowing away 300 meters ahead of the rest of the fleet. Remember GBR sitting in 2nd, France in 3rd, USA in 4th.
Yeah, and we're getting towards the last upwind leg, so the things are spacing. What strikes me here, Todd, is it's windy, the boundaries are coming close, and it's how much can you be ahead of the game? How can you be proactive rather than reactive? And at the moment, a lot of these crews are just reacting to what's in front of them. Tom Slingsby, Emirates Great Britain, they're laying out a plan. They're able to keep the tempo at a more controlled level and therefore execute the maneuvers better.
Emirates GBR into 2nd place, Australia with a 300-meter lead, France in 3rd, USA in 4th, Canada top 5. And Stevie, as they take that big shot from the helicopter, you see the big clouds in the distance. You got to wonder if that's going to affect the conditions later today. No better person to tell us what we're forecasted for. Let's go down to the water and Lisa Darmanin.
Well, I can tell you, Todd, that cloud is definitely affecting the race course. It's a different game out here. The wind has been...
Apologies, Lisa. Just breaking news there as New Zealand has had to retire with tech issues. Peter Burley making the announcement moments ago. So now it is an 8-boat race. Leg 5 of 7 is still Australia, Great Britain, France, and USA top 4. Lisa, continue on in the weather and what we should expect for the next 2 races.
Well, I've noticed that the cloud is moving to the north of the course, so it's moving away from the course, so I'm hoping that will settle the wind. But the reason that a lot of the teams are struggling out here is A, it's different to what they practice, but B, is the difference between the lulls and the gusts are making it really hard to control the power of the F50, and that's why we're seeing touchdowns, we're seeing them fly too high, and they've really got to be proactive, like Stevie was saying.
Nice to get it. No, I get it right occasionally.
Once in a while.
Yeah, had to happen. A broke clock is right twice a day, they say. But on board the Australians here, look at that. They look good. Slingsby looks good, even though a slight grimace on board his face there.
That lead has now come down to 210 meters over Emirates, Great Britain. France, USA, your top four still. And look at this. Those are the spectator boats out there.
Yeah, and look at the speeds, Todd. Look at the speeds. The Australian boat down at 20 kilometres now. Great Britain at 46. The Aussies, that was a bad manoeuvre.
Bad manoeuvre from them in this leg, but last leg, we're seeing that the Aussies are sailing over 300 metres less distance than those boats further back in the pack. Just showing that when you have the lead, you can really keep that average speed up and sail less distance, do what you want as you go around the course.
Pressure manoeuvre now. Australia have to get this right. Ainsley's breathing down the net in Emirates GBR. We're right now, last couple of manoeuvres to the finish, Todd. This is the final gate before they head down to the mark. Australia did nail it. They should be good to bring it home in front of the fans from here.
So through the near gate for the leaders, Australia, then it's Great Britain, France, the USA. They'll head downwind, and then it's one more turn for the finish line in race number one. Remember, 3 races today, so 2 more still to go. But I got to tell you right now, whatever that short crew did, Stevie, it's masterful, because Australia went from possibly not racing today to leading this race, and looks like they're on the way to a win in race 1.
They're going well. They were late getting the board down there, Todd. When we come back, it'll be interesting to see how they look.
Boundary penalty, Australia.
Yeah. Ooh. That's 20 metres they're going to have to lose relative, but more importantly, they're off the foils. The penalty's not going to matter. The speed they've lost, they're struggling to get the board on the left-hand side of our screen down in the last 2 manoeuvres. That was the board that had a problem in the last race.
And look how close it is now, as you talk about it, on course, Emirates GBR, and they are now stuck in the water.
They're off the foil. Someone's overboard, Todd. Someone's overboard. Oh my word, that looks like the fairing's broken. Yep. They're trying to reach through, and he's just clearly, whoa, disaster for Emirates Great Britain. What a moment there. Opens the door for the French. Quentin de la Pierre chasing down hard after the Australian crew. Slingsby won't want any more manoeuvres to do here. That board's not working possibly. Here we go, watch this. 2 more manoeuvres for Australia, 1 more manoeuvre for France. The Aussies can't get that board up. Big issues. Australia has the right of way here at the mark. Oh my word, they're having to think on their feet now, Tom. Oh my lord, the boat jumps out of the water.
And big look at the Americans on the inside.
Oh, it's a sprint now, but Australia, they're sailing with an arm tied behind their back at the moment, Todd. Unbelievable that they're managing to hang on here as France drive to the finish. Spithill drives to the finish. Who's going to get there first?
Neck and neck as they come to the finish line here in race number 1 in Sydney. And the win will go the way of the French. Quentin de la Pierre pulls a rabbit out of his hat.
Wow. Unbelievable by the French to get through there, but how the Australians have finished 3rd. Look at the French boat leaping across the finish line there. What a race. There's some serious issues on these boats right now.
There is a lot on out there today. An incredible effort by the Australian boat for finishing that with board issues. They're essentially sailing with double the lift when they've got 2 foils down, which that's a big job on for Jason Waterhouse in keeping that flight control going.
Want to report that they did fish their crew member in for Emirates GBR, so he is safe back on board. Denmark's going to come in and take a 4th. Now the drag is on, and it is going to be Canada that's going to be ahead of Emirates GBR. And Stevie, what a turn of events. Emirates GBR is going to finish in 6th place. The good news is crew member safe back on board. They've got some damage to that boat, but they were in 1st place when that incident took place.
Yeah, they were, and we can see there without the helmet, the right-hand side, that's Matt Gottrell. Big rower, Olympic gold medalist rower, and yeah, he fell through the netting. Must have been damage on board there as the Swiss come in 7th. Pretty much everyone had a big moment in that race, Todd. That was just all action, and again, it's the first time we've seen any win. New Zealand, they're back in the race. Can they get the Spanish on this blast to the finish? Every point counts. I don't think they're going to manage to get past Botin, but a result for New Zealand. A 9th is better than a retired. But they've got a lot of work to do, New Zealand, over the next few races.
That was the action on day 1 in Sydney, Australia, the last event, event number 9. This is event 10, the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix. Christchurch not sailing right now because some marine mammals and wildlife have been spotted on course. So in conjunction with local regulations, all the boats have come to a stop until those mammals can cross through safely. And that gives us a chance to talk tech with Emily Nagel. And Emily, everyone knows a straight line speed is important. At the biggest lead changes always seem to happen at the gates. And boat-on-boat position is crucial to allow those teams to sail where they want to go.
That's exactly right, Todd. This here is a great example from Sydney of how complicated this can be at Gate 2. So as Spain and Denmark reach the 3-boat length circle, Spain are the inside and have right of way. Denmark have to give them enough room to get around the mark. Spain don't have the best rounding, and rather than come out close to the wind, they stay wide and come off the foils, leaving room for the USA to sneak through the gap. Then, as they accelerate away, Denmark catch Spain and have to choose to shoot above or stay safe and go below. By going below, they have to sail a wider angle to build speed and find a clean lane. This results in all 3 teams sailing very different angles.
It's like Formula One on water. Pick the right lane and you put yourself in a great position. On a beautiful day, the folks continue to get their opportunities to get out on the water and make the most of this beautiful Saturday afternoon here in New Zealand. And talk about a lucky place to have as a backdrop. So happy to be in this part of the world for day number 1 of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. We'll be back with more after this. New Zealand are now one of the standout teams, but their journey to contend for the title hasn't been an easy one.
I think a lot of people were surprised when the Kiwis entered SailGP League, so they didn't look at the way any of the other teams were really doing it. They simply did it their own way. Most of the things they did differently just didn't work.
It's actually quite interesting going back into a one design fleet. You know, there's obviously a lot of little things on these boats that are just designed to make them even. I think cool for the sport to have the boats is quite a hard way to sail.
Everyone has the same technology, and the human factor is making the difference.
And the Kiwis haven't stepped onto any podiums yet in SailGP, and this is a team that's used to winning absolutely everything.
Just wonder what's happened to this team.
So we've stripped it back to basics, and we're working really, really hard on the fundamentals, just really focused on simple yacht racing and sailing well.
Listen to Blair Tuke and Pete Burling. They see it coming, they talk about it, and they are now planning ahead.
This opens the door for Burling. New Zealand will have an opportunity here. Look at the speed.
Really tight to 100%.
Pete Burling is very focused on driving that boat fast. And in previous races, I've seen him looking around a lot, dealing with a lot of things. Pete is really trusting the people around him so he can focus on driving that boat as fast as he can.
Pete Burling and company, they danced with the devil on the last leg, but welcome to the show, New Zealand SailGP. The Kiwis take the win in Plymouth.
Great job, you guys, great job. We've learned some really tough lessons, and now we are sailing better as a team.
Well, beautiful day in New Zealand as we get ready to go racing at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. And in case you're wondering why there are no boats racing on the water, racing has stopped temporarily because of possible risk to marine mammals. So race officials are monitoring the conditions and the potential impact on those marine mammals. And right now we go down onto the water and we join Team Denmark, Nikolai Sehested and company, just sitting there waiting to get the green light to go racing. Nikolai, this is a very unique situation. How are you guys handling this time and just standing down just before the start?
Yeah, I think it's quite tricky for all teams, just, you know, trying to relax a little bit and save your energy, but also staying focused on the race course. So we're just sitting and watching how the race course develops and how the breeze is developing out here and trying to update the plan as we go.
Nikolai, Stevie here. Well, we've just come off a feature actually looking at that Gate 2, which is a course where all 9 boats come together and looks pretty crazy from our angle. Can you actually plan for that, or is that all reactions and instincts?
Yeah, that's going to be all reactions and instincts. We just had a call now from race committee saying 6 minutes to the start, so I think we're actually into it here. But yeah, a lot of it is out today without any training and warm-up's going to be instincts, and just hope you get the right.
Well, I think you want to trust those instincts, Nikolai, and good luck. Thanks for joining us so quickly.
So the boats will now get into position as they get ready, about 5 minutes away from racing. This will be race number 1. 3 scheduled on the day here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. The first time SailGP has made it to this beautiful part of the world, in a place, Stevie, where sailing is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal, and for the crowds and the spectators there, it's absolutely massive to get the event in New Zealand, and they're going to be loving it. And I think it'll be really good for us to get down. That sounds like good news from Nikolai, but hopefully we can get down on the water with Lisa and find out what's happening on the water.
Well, Stevie, good news is that those dolphins, they came, they saw, and then they've left with pace, so we can get underway. The wind is looking absolutely fantastic still, and those teams have had a lot of time to study what is going on. If anything, I think it's kicked a little bit, so it should be a great show coming up in not so long.
They said this was a tough ticket to get. The Dolphins just came in, checked it out. They said, yeah, this is a hot ticket in town. Completely sold out of the grandstands. And Stevie, no better way to spend a Saturday here as the world's most technical boats and the best sailors come to this part of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nature aligning. We're powered by nature, and we're working well with nature out there today. I mean, it's incredible scenes, the view, the vantage points. But you alluded to it a minute ago, this is a unique situation. Normally the crews would be thinking specifically about the race course, but they've not worked together. The timing of the crew work, how the rig's set up to make these F50s go as fast as possible. They have got so much to do in the next 6 minutes, rather than me.
So just under 6.5 minutes to go before the start of race number 1. Still hoping to get 3 races in for the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. And while we wait, we want to take you back to some of the best finishes we've had so far from season number 3. There have been some within meters of one another, but these are some of the few that really stood out in our mind. And if you're the fan of the French team, you are definitely going to like what we're about to show you now.
Tight. The New Zealand boat needs to stay in that yellow circle. Now could now be a protest back from Australia. Burling pushing the limit there. That could well go to the umpires because he needed to stay in the circle, and it was certainly tight. It's a sprint in here. Has Burling managed to get 3rd from Slingsby? I think he does. Oh, if the umpires don't have anything to say, I think what a brilliant move at the finish there by Burling. He pushed the limit there. France must keep clear. France has to give him room. There goes De La Pierre. Late reactions. This opens the door for Burling. New Zealand will have an opportunity here. Look at the speed. Going nearly 3 times the speed on board New Zealand. It's going to be a sprint across to the finish.
One boat length separates them in race number 1, and as they come to the line, it will be the Canadians that take the win here in Plymouth as New Zealand comes from 3rd to grab 2nd.
Hoiling too high. They've lost it. They've lost it here. It's going to be really tight. They've got the windward rudder out of the water. Can they save it? It's a sprint.
It's a full-on drag race to the finish line, the 3rd and final race of the day. Phil Robertson on the inside line, pushing Tom Slingsby, the defending champion, outside as they come to the line, and it will be the Crazy Canucks that cross the line just barely ahead of the Aussies for the win.
Expects an aggressive move from the Americans coming.
Classic match race in the final gate. It's the Americans on the inside, the French on the outside.
It's going to be a sprint now. They're both off the foils, Todd. It's a sprint to the foils, and there's the finish line coming into view.
Separated by just a few meters with the finish line there. Who will get the win as they come to the line here in Spain? And it will be France getting their first victory in SailGP St. Magnifique.
Oh, they blur.
Some of the best finishes of season 3, and we're hoping to have more of those finishes today as we kick off the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch, the first time SailGP has made it to New Zealand. So we are now under 4 minutes to go before the start of the first race after a slight delay. 3:35 to be exact. Emily, as a former world champion, what's it like to have these kind of delays, and how do you get your mindset now back into race mode?
I think for a lot of teams out there, it's all about just getting the practice in as much as possible, particularly around the maneuvers. We've seen quite a few crew changes. USA have a new strategist on board. The Swiss team have also mixed it up with a new wing trimmer. So it's going to be a lot about finding out all the little differences with each of these new sailors on board.
And Stevie, protecting home waters, that is the job for the Kiwis right now, and they bring an all-star crew.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the talented lineup on board that boat there. You know, Pete Burling and Blair Tuke, well, they're probably two of the biggest sporting names in New Zealand with their success at the Olympics. They carried the flag at the Rio Olympic Games for New Zealand. So, yeah, huge pressure on them. But I think this crew, they're used to wearing that load fairly lightly, and they'll just be excited to get things up and running. Disappointing event in Sydney that's made things a little bit closer for them as a season point. And let's not lose sight of that. This is pinch point in the season. Yes, Australia are in good shape, but people like Great Britain, they're in 4th place at the moment. They're not in that grand final as it stands. And Ben Ainsley, that's just not somewhere he's really used to being. Ben Ainsley, Hannah Mills, two of the most, well, the two most decorated Olympic sailors of all time. They need to pull a big performance out this weekend.
Great Britain currently sitting in 4th and 61 points. That's 2 back of 3rd in France, who is on 63 points. Remember, to Stevie's point, after San Francisco's 5 races in the fleet, only the top 3 will race off for the $1 million grand finale. And that will determine who is the champion. We just had a chance to talk with Nikolai Sehested, Stevie. They've got some good consistency they've built over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think this team, they always talk about the process. And they've really built that. They've shown great form, great results. But for me, process needs to go out the window now in terms of consistency. They need to tweak the risk level up a bit. They need to come away from here with certainly a top 3 finish, if not an event win. And then they're going to be very much in the hunt going into San Fran.
Denmark still in it. 57 points, 19 down of the overall, the top 3 right now. So you got to think the cut line is at 63 points. Great Britain on 61, Denmark on 57, and then the USA on 52. But you still hear hope in the voice of Jimmy Spittle, thinking they could still make that grand final.
Jimmy Spittle's a bit of an optimist, Todd. I mean, you can't fault him. He's used to fighting with his back to the wall. But for me, they're a little bit out of the equation. I think it's Denmark and up. But yeah, my eyes really here are on New Zealand, France and Great Britain. I think that's the thing. We've got a minute to go here, and this pre-race start now, absolutely crucial, the positioning at this time. The crews won't have had many practice runs at this. We can see the wind's superb out there on the water, and that starting box is very small. Australia, they look very early back here, but the French and Great Britain, well, their timing looks a little bit off. They could be struggling at this time.
Race number 1 set to go at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix here in Christchurch as SailGP comes to New Zealand for the first time.
Slingsby on board Australia. He's controlling things there. We see the blue mark indicating the pole position, the favoured place to start. USA, they've got space here. It's Australia with space, USA with space. Who's got their timing right? USA dives behind the Kiwi boat here. Burling, classic start. How's his timing though as Contant de la Pierre on board the French boat lines things up? It's a straight sprint to the line now. Watch for the line to turn white, and we're going to be racing here in Christchurch. Perfect start by Canada there, Todd. They've led things away. Phil Robertson, a Kiwi, racing on home waters as well. He's driving that French boat hard, and I think he should be able to get around the French by Mark 1.
Still overlap. Just coming up a little. Coming up. Gonna go around here. Coming out too. Well, let's go.
Calm voice of Phil Robertson at mark number 1. So the 2-time World Match Racing Tour champion, Robertson, back on home waters, and it's the Canadians that take the early lead here on the first race.
Well, here we go on board Great Britain. They're first to turn away. New Zealand also at the back of the pack, and it's the French. They managed to go so fast on that downwind leg there. The yellow line, that's the mark, the line that tells us they can make it to the next gate in 1. French are in control of things here, and it's going to get tight on the boundary, Todd. Everyone needs to watch out. Who's got the clear shot into gate 2?
Leg 2 of 7, race number 1. Remember, the French coming off a 3-peat performance in Sydney where they won all 3 races on Saturday.
Definitely lined up here, Contant de la Pierre, and they are fast on board that French boat. Look at the speed, over 80 kilometres an hour, heading straight at gate 2. Brilliant performance there, but back in the pack, New Zealand and Great Britain, work to do if they're going to start chasing down this French team. And Tom Slingsby's Australia settling in 3rd behind Phil Robertson. Has Australia got the room inside? It's really tight.
dips the nose, and Australia comes in, same issue.
Great Britain, he's going around the outside here. He must give room to Switzerland. The Swiss, oh, they're out of control. They snuggle around as well. It's a tight race here. What a moment. The French, though, they lead away, and New Zealand back in the hunt after the action at gate 2. They were smooth on board the Kiwi boat, and they've got it going fast. They're going to be right back in the race as we head upwind.
2 legs of 7 complete. It is France out in front, Australia, Canada, Denmark, New Zealand, Great Britain, Switzerland, Spain, and surprising to see the USA back in 9th.
Those distances open out so quickly there, Todd, but it's New Zealand. They found space. Burling was right at the back of the pack. He's showing us 4th now, just 84 metres behind the French. They're on home turf, and well, they've done a fantastic job of getting themselves back in the race here now, and that New Zealand boat looks fast.
Brilliant speeds by the French here, 56 kilometres an hour. The Aussies slightly further back in the pack are slower, 51 kilometres per hour speed here. Really pushing, trying to stay up in the fours. We've got 30k an hour of breeze, which means the boats really can push, and the French once again dominant in that breeze.
We look at the ride height on the top left of the screen. We can see the French boat flying beautifully out of the water, very steady. We can see the number not changing much, but New Zealand, wow, they look fast here. The ladder lines here, that shows us a relative position up the racetrack. They're neck and neck with Australia, 2nd and 3rd, and these are the class of the fleet. France were perfect in Sydney. Right now, De La Pierre, perfect, as we're into race 1 here in Christchurch.
Have not missed a beat, and there are some teams out there, Stevie, that need these points. They cannot dig themselves a hole on day number 1. Remember, it's 3 races today, 2 more tomorrow.
Here we go, tight cross here. Australia, they have the right of way, and Canada. New Zealand's got to be accurate here. Burling's pushing it. We're going to hear from Craig Mitchell, I'm sure. Tight cross. I think New Zealand's clear ahead, but wow, that was so tight. Top of screen, Great Britain, they now have the right of way as we approach gate 3. It's a real fight for the podium places behind the French crew.
Gate number 3, France will be the first ones to get there, and now the battle for 2nd place is on. Right now it's the Kiwis, Australia's in 3rd, and Emirates GBR in 4th. Another tight spot here as 3 teams opt for the right-hand side.
Oh, it's so tight here, Todd, but that was an absolute masterclass from New Zealand on that upwind leg. They found space, they found good wind, and they moved from 6th to 2nd through the quality of this fleet. That was absolutely clinical, and they're back within 12 seconds of the French.
Switzerland 1 spot ahead of the Americans.
So the French in that previous leg, we see them with the highest average speed, 53 kilometres an hour, but the Kiwis sailed less distance, 1.98 kilometres versus that just over 2, both doing the same amount of manoeuvres. So this is really showing the different modes that the 2 boats are sailing. The French sailing wider angles, higher speeds, the Kiwis sailing closer to the wind and shorter distance.
See here, look at Contam looking around. He's got his eyes out the back of the boat there. That's Maëlle Frascari on the back of the boat, her first day on an F50 as well. And these through posts in the way here, that is an obstruction. The crews aren't allowed through there. So another little treat for the teams out here on the water in New Zealand. And we can see on the ladder line there, well, it's a big gap opening up already. This French crew, if you get them out in front, as Emily said, they know how to sail the boat very fast.
We've seen a couple of penalties pop up there from the Swiss and USA. They just went outside the boundary.
Boundary penalty, that's a 20-metre loss they're going to have to take, Todd. So it's just an unforced error, generally speaking, and it just means this leading group's getting further and further ahead. As a right turn for New Zealand, Tom Slingsby on board Australia thinks he's seen something different, though. It looks a little loose on board Australia, and he's making a few mistakes, very uncharacteristic.
So the Danes follow the Aussies, as do Canada. Remember, Canada was in 2nd place after the first mark. They now sit in 6th place. Everyone's scrambling for points. As we've seen in past races, if you finish in a 7, 8, and 9 on race number 1, it's almost impossible to come back and make that top 3.
Still sounds pretty calm on board Australia, but he's not going to like to see the speed of that New Zealand boat. It's stretching away. Remember, Kiwis were way behind on that first upwind leg, but they found a way. They're minimising distance. They're back to 125 metres behind the French, but Delapierre has good control here as we see Great Britain and Australia right of way with Australia, but I think the Brits have got a good wind shift. We can see they're nearly sailing straight up the ladder line, so they're minimising the distance they need to sail, but they've got to watch out for Australia.
And Emirates GBR just clear of the Aussies, so Great Britain moves into third. The Australians move into fourth. They are the overall leaders on the series at 76 points, 12 points clear of the Kiwis, who now sit in second.
Here we go, it's going to be tight here. So when the French turn the boat the next time, New Zealand will have the right of way. And to my eye, that Kiwi boat, he's either picking good wind shifts or he's sailing the boat faster. But when Delapierre tacks here, turns the boat through the wind, New Zealand now have the right of way. It's going to be tight. Delapierre needs to be certain he can make gate 5, and he needs to be certain he's clear.
And as the French approach gate number 5, we want to remind you the fan-owned SailGP team built on Near has open subscriptions, which gives an opportunity to all fans to become a team owner.
The speeds we're seeing on these boats right now are neck and neck. France are averaging 58 kilometers an hour, New Zealand 57.5. So they really are pushing the boats right to the limit.
Well, we've got a split here. So the French have turned right. New Zealand are heading back towards the flans here. This is leg six of 7. This is, oh my word, it's a tight moment here. Canada have the right of way. And Denmark, last minute turn. There will be a protest. I imagine a penalty there for the Danes, but the Canadians are safely round. That was so tight there. God, look how tight this race course is, Todd. You can hear there Phil Robertson. He's watching out for the Americans. They're trying to look out for boats on the other leg of the course. And we're heading here down to gate 6, and then it's just a sprint to the finish. And the French, well, they're stretching out, but have the Kiwis, who are to the right-hand side of our screen, managed to find a little bit of extra wind to get themselves chasing that French boat down.
Wind speed holding right around 28 kilometers an hour. It's the French out in front. They have a massive lead here with half a leg to go. It'll be at gate number 6, then the turn to the finish in front of the fans here. A sold-out crowd here in Christchurch. France, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, the top 4.
Okay, interesting moment here, Todd. That's the finish line we're flying over now. France are about to turn right. Normally you'd be able to easily head straight to the finish, but I think this could be tight. It's going to be interesting to see if the French can make it in one. Don't be surprised, to see a left turn from New Zealand and then an early turn towards the finish. It's one more manoeuvre for New Zealand, 2 more manoeuvres for France. There's a chance here, different upwind leg to the finish than we've ever seen before. France execute that manoeuvre well. New Zealand will have the right of way, but I think it's going to be too little too late. Delapierre still in control.
Further back in the fleet, we've got Australia following in the footsteps of the French, and same with Great Britain.
And there it is, the final maneuver for the French, Stevie. It was very clean, a very tricky course to wrap things up. And once again, just like in Sydney, Australia, here in New Zealand, the French draw first blood.
Wow, 4 races in a row if you go back to Sydney there, Todd. Impressive stuff. I think there was a bit of bad language, unfortunately, just a moment ago, so we'll apologise for that. And the New Zealand crew, well, that is a solid comeback. Very poor start. They'll be easily looking to make improvements on that, but that New Zealand boat looks fast to sail through the fleet like that. And Ainsley, look at him. He's cut the corner on Slingsby. That's a point gained by the British crew. 2 quick turns, and Slingsby opened the door. Ainsley not one to avoid jumping through it. 3rd for Great Britain. 4th for Australia.
And everyone trying to get the points. Canada, who had a great start, will finish in 5th place. And it'll be a quick turnaround as the Canadians come through. Look at Switzerland having a pretty decent run here today. And they will finish in 6th.
Yeah, it's tight though. Look,
or maybe not. Look at this.
Stuck in front of Denmark there. Wow, the Danes. Wow, how costly could that be in terms of the season as a whole? They were in that battle with New Zealand and Great Britain, and they dropped right back. And talking of dropping right back, well, USA, disappointing. He's got to get through by the Spanish.
Might have got him.
I think he did get him, Todd, but an 8th place, that is not going to do it for this US team.
So race number 1 is in the books, and once again, France has taken the victory. New Zealand finishing in second, and Great Britain on points sits in third.
So 20 seconds out from the start, it looked like the USA might be in a perfect setup for the start, going for a slingshot, but instead they dip down into the pack and end up with 15 seconds to go in the middle of a bunch of boats. Meanwhile, Canada and Denmark, France, Australia at the other end of the line, the favoured end shown by the blue spot. Canada and Denmark in particular have plenty of speed as in clear air as they aim straight at the line. 7 meters off at the gun, 65 kilometers an hour of speed.
Well, this was it, gate 2, and we see New Zealand right back in the pack here. We're on board the British. They chose to turn right, but it was turning left, New Zealand, and you can see they're out the back. And I don't know if this was a key moment or just a masterclass, really, by the New Zealand crew, but they managed to find some space on this upwind leg. They sailed the boat really, really fast, but they managed to turn 7th at gate 2 into 2nd at gate 3. That could be huge here in Christchurch.
So the results look like this from race number 1 of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix here in Christchurch. France continues their winning ways. They get the 10 points. New Zealand in second. Emirates GBR in third. Then Australia just missing out on that third into fourth. Canada, Switzerland, Denmark, the United States salvaging 1 point as they finish just ahead of Spain. And we now go down on the water. Quentin Delapierre, another win for the French. They've now made it 4 races in a row if you go back to Sydney. And Quentin, you guys are on point here in New Zealand. How were you able to get such a great race and a great start having 0 practice on that water?
Great starts again, and I think was pretty rough this first race here in Christchurch. Absolutely no timing for training, so kind of discovering a new kind of sailing. But yeah, really good energy on board.
So Quentin, what's the priorities for the next race?
I mean, Stevie, you know that better than me. Probably again the start and try to reach the good starting point. I think, like I used to say, it's 80% of the game every time, and really it's part of the game to be able to reach M1 in the top 3. So it will be the same for next race.
Well, Quentin, thanks for joining us. That's 4 race wins in a row. So let's see how you go this one.
Off and running at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix here in Christchurch. One of the most beautiful spots in the entire world as SailGP comes to the Southern Hemisphere, and it gets a warm welcome from the Kiwis.
It is a huge operation to keep these machines racing throughout the year, whilst at the same time manufacturing new boats.
The SailGP portion of SailGP Technologies is mainly, we do 2 main things. We have regatta support, where we do all of the repairs and maintenance for the entire fleet. So we're essentially 10 F1 pit teams, all combined into one. We look after everything. We build 99.9% of the components for the boats from start to finish. We're developing the boat in every single way, constantly. We've got the new wings, obviously, but later in season 4 we're going to have new rudders that are going to make the boats go even faster. Our last boat, the Canadian boat, boat number 10, that went sailing straight away, straight out of the box after they did some final tweaks to it, and within 2 minutes of sail testing it was fully sailing at full speed, which was an incredible act by both parties, you know, the tech team and the technology side.
SailGP Technologies has a state-of-the-art facility with 110 skilled staff pushing the boundaries across a wide range of industries, from design and manufacturing to software development and control systems.
As a company and the sports league, we're always looking to push forward. We're a forward-facing company and we're not too fussed about the things that we've left behind. We're looking to advance in every single sector of the business, and if we've got people in their own sectors within the business that are doing a fantastic job of that, and everyone likes advancing the products and advancing themselves personally, and once we get all of those micro things advancing, the whole company goes forwards at a great rate.
Culture, beauty, and a little bit of everything here in New Zealand. If you're not on the water sailing, there is plenty to do in this beautiful part of the world. Crowds on the water as big as the crowds on the land as we check in down on the water. And Lisa Darmanin for a report before we go racing here in race number 2 at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Christchurch. Lisa, what do you know?
Well, you can expect more of the same for race number 2. The wind has pretty much stayed the same, but it's super gusty, so there's plenty of opportunities for overtaking. I think we're going to see lots of tight crosses again, boat-on-boat situations, but it's really hard to make those decisions whether you choose to cross a boat or duck behind because the wind is changing so drastically. It's going to be exciting, it's going to be difficult for the sailors, but we should have another fantastic race, and I'm going to hand over to you guys to take us through another race start.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Much more from you with another race still to come after race number 2. All right, Stevie did a little quick debrief as we're now under 2 minutes to go. So with Lisa's report of the shifty winds, do you see more overtaking or do you see someone getting a great start and basically checking out?
I definitely see that the first boat at Mark 1 is going to have a huge advantage. It's a really narrow course, so it is, if you get space, the rich are going to get richer. But New Zealand showed us if you're in the pack, and the pack will be tight, you can find the gap.
For race 2 is 7 legs. The axis is 080. Wind is approximately 28 kilometers per hour.
There we go, Melanie Roberts, the race director. Well, that is basically the same conditions as we had in the first race, which is great news. So not a lot's changed, but what has changed is the crews now have a little bit more understanding of the racetrack here on Lyttelton Harbour. And this start box is small, so they're already in their pre-race run-up.
Coming up on 1 minute to go before the start of race number 2. Race 1 went the way of the French.
Here we are on board Delapierre. He was late in last time. He likes that. We saw that the end of the start line in the middle of our screen on the right-hand side, that was the favoured place to be. It's a short run to Mark 1, so you want to be on the inside of the turn, and there you go. There's our data analytics showing us that pole position. All the crews quite late turning back here, and I think the French, Australia, and perhaps New Zealand are well-timed at the moment, but it is now going to be very tight at the bottom of that line. Who can find the space? Australia. Cross ahead there, they have good controlling position. Denmark and France look in good shape. Burling, we've seen this story before, out the back, up and foiling with 20 seconds to go on board New Zealand, charging in here. Big run at this from New Zealand, and it's going to be Australia with the precision start near pole position. Burling on board New Zealand, trying to get his timing right. Has he got room to get in at the start line? I think it's going to be Australia and France coming out the middle of the line with the best start here. How's your timing on the line? All clear there for me, and it's going to be Australia in a brilliant position down towards the bottom end, but the fastest boat on the course at the moment is New Zealand. Can they roll round the front of the fleet?
At mark number 1 of race 2, it is the Kiwis and the Aussies out in front with Tom Slingsby and the Australians, the 2-time reigning and defending champions, who get the whole shot.
Oh, Australia were perfect, and the New Zealand boat was so fast. The Canadians got in on the inside there, though. They're going to be holding the New Zealand crew up, and that gate too, it's looming large already. But for New Zealand and Australia, they're going to be pretty happy with the picture they see right now. Let's see how they execute the manoeuvre on board Australia. Beautiful manoeuvre by the Australians there, and they're well set up for gate 2. New Zealand as well in space, and look how tight it is in the pack here. Switzerland and Spain nearly on top each other at the back of the race. 2 new drivers on board there. Diego Botan, just his second event on that Spanish crew. Well, he's at the back, but it's really tight as we see Australia and New Zealand. It's a serious drag race, and New Zealand, look at the speed, 65 kilometres an hour.
Canada not slow either, almost 70 kilometres an hour on the top of their wing mast there.
And it looks like they're going to split the course.
Yeah, we are going to get a split here. New Zealand opting to not follow Australia. There'll be turbulent wind if you follow behind Australia. That will slow you down. So New Zealand, they're hoping to find a shorter course or more wind by turning right at the bottom there. And in the gate here, it's really tight. Spain, my Lord, that was so close with the French. Won't be surprised to see a penalty there on board the Spanish. Great avoiding action by the French. And Spain, it's a little bit loose out on Littleton Harbour.
Plenty of excitement out there. At the moment, we've got the Australians on the right-hand side of the course, the Kiwis on the left, coming back together now. But the breeze across the course is pretty similar. 50 kilometres an hour out on the right-hand side. Boat speed, 60 kilometres an hour currently for the Kiwis, both averaging 30 kilometres an hour of wind speed.
And you hear the tacticians on board Australia and New Zealand watching each other, seeing what they're doing. It's Australia and New Zealand. That's 1 and 2 in the overall standings, and they are going at it here in race number 2.
Right of way with Australia. New Zealand, he chooses to dip behind. It was a big avoiding action by the Kiwis, but when they meet back up in about 30 seconds' time, it will be New Zealand with the right of way. So a short-term loss for Burling. Will it be a long-term gain?
Leg 3 of 7. The French look like their winning ways may come to an end here on race number 2 as they sit in 7th place. The Americans sitting good right now, Stevie, in 5th place. They need the points badly, and the Danes up into 4th, just 1 spot behind Canada.
I think there's nothing in it. You could throw a blanket over the middle of the fleet when we get up to gate 3 here, Todd. It's going to be a really, really tight battle with, well, the 2 people we see as the main protagonists for this season 3 in SailGP. Starboard tack, wind coming over the right-hand side of the boat for New Zealand, and they're sailing parallel with that yellow ley line. That means they're going to make gate 3 with no more manoeuvres. Australia, wind coming over the left-hand side. Right of way with New Zealand. Australia needs to be very, very confident in this next decision.
As they approach gate number 3 here in race number 2, this is leg 3 of 7. And look at the Kiwis and the Aussies coming together. Who's going to blink first?
Australia's got to go behind. It's going to be really tight for the Australian crew. Slingsby's done that before, though, and he manages still neck and neck at gate 3. There's nothing in it. The top 2 boats in the fleet are going hammer and tong here, and Canada third once again. It's really tight. 0 second difference between Australia and New Zealand. What a race. And they're encouraging his Canadian crew in 3rd position at the moment. Nice gap on 4th, and they really need to hold on to this position here, Todd. But Great Britain, 9th place. This is a nightmare for the British crew. He needs to fire himself up through the fleet very quickly. Tight with Switzerland. Their Swiss needed to keep clear.
So New Zealand, which finished in 2nd in race number 1, now have the lead in race number 2.
Looking back at the boats at the front of the fleet now, we've got Australia, New Zealand and Canada all pushing 100% fly time as they head down to that bottom gate. Average speeds around 60, 61 kilometres an hour, with the Kiwis still just having the lead.
They've managed to put that manoeuvre in just ahead of Australia. If they get an overlap here, the Kiwis are going to have to keep clear. It's really tight. It's just coming down to small details in manoeuvres here, Todd. The tactics are really, really close with each other. What's Australia going to do? Looks like a following manoeuvre from the Aussies. Perhaps a JK coming up here. Expect a turn, and then a turn through the wind. Oh, it was an aggressive move on the... Kiwis are pushing it so hard, but a big mistake by Australia. Tried to find and force an error, but he pushed an error on himself.
And the Canadians also dip as they come around.
Set-piece manoeuvre that, Todd, where you turn up round the mark, straight into a turn, and disaster for Australia. They fell off the foils, they're going to have lost a distance, and look at the new Danish boat. They've run wide, the crews are struggling out here.
We do know that right now, you know, the 32 kilometers an hour of wind that they're sailing into currently, the tide is going in the opposite direction. Now, when we have this situation of wind against tide, that creates a lot of chop, which, as we're seeing, is making the flight controllers' lives a little bit difficult.
Here are the French winners of race number 1, now sitting in 8th place.
That kind of race course, Todd. If you don't get to Mark 1 in good shape, it's really hard. But New Zealand, look, they've got a great wind. The wind shifters turn to the left. They're on the left-hand side of the course. That's great news for the New Zealand crew here. This will be a big, big lead with the wind shifters. It sits at the moment. They were nearly sailing straight up the ladder lines, progressing towards gate 3 really quickly. Massive advantage for Burling and New Zealand.
And they must have intercepted Lisa Darmano's reports from down on the water. She says the wind has gone left, so there's a little funnel down the shore. So we'll see if it holds on for the Kiwis. The Australians sit in 2nd, Canada in 3rd, the USA now up to 4th. Leg 5 of 7, race number 2, was still another race to go here on day number 1 of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch in beautiful Littleton Harbour.
Look at the hill line in the background. That's packed with spectators as well here, and they're going to love what they see. A hometown hero, New Zealand, leading the way here to this gate. They're going to turn the boats away downwind. Expect massive acceleration as they turn the boats away from the wind. But it's a big gain here for Burling and his crew, and it should be just a case of delivering the boat to the finish from here, because this is a big lead.
Stevie, remember how tricky that finish is, though. Who does this favor as they split the course?
I think it's such a big lead. Burling can do what he wants.
Gonna go fast and go right.
Okay.
Gonna go fast. I like the sound of that.
Certainly are by the numbers I'm seeing. 70 kilometers an hour average on the previous leg. That was the last downwind leg towards that bottom gate, while the Kiwis are slightly slower, but yet again sailing shorter distance.
And if Lisa said the marked wind had turned to the left, that would favour the left turn. It should be less distance sailed for all the boats doing a left turn here. So it's a bit of a roll of the dice for Slingsby here. I don't think he would lose 2nd, but he's lost a lot of distance with that manoeuvre relative to the Kiwis. So it should make this final leg to the finish a bit easier for the New Zealand boat.
And everyone fighting for points here on the 2nd race of 3. It's all about getting to the top 3 so you can race in the final race on Sunday. The Kiwis have control of this one. Their lead over 250 meters over the Australians. Canada sitting in 3rd, the USA in 4th. And Stevie, it's down to the next gate and then that tricky maneuver to the finish line.
Yes, a tricky final leg to get the boats back in under the fans on the shoreline. Great view for the fans, but it certainly gives a bit of thinking time to the other crews out there. But New Zealand, well, they're doing a great job.
Impressive sailing by the Kiwis. Mark 1, they were in 3rd. They have moved up the fleet to 1st, but really good by Canada as well. They were 6th at Mark 1 after not the best start and did as well move up to 3rd. Just shows how much can change at all of these gate marks.
So they're down to the final gate, and now they have to configure and figure out how the best way is to get to that finish line. And Stevie, it looks like they're going to be able to lay right in.
Todd, your eyes in today. Yeah, it's a little bit of a turn in the wind. The wind's now turned to the right. This sort of environment with the hills all around, the wind's constantly shifting, and right now it's a beautiful picture for the New Zealand boat as they're going to bring it home.
And coming across the line is the Kiwis. The Kiwi team takes the win in race number 2.
Big for the crowd on the shore, absolutely loving that out there, and we can see the wind dropping right off near the shore. Australia off the foils. I think they'll just manage to sneak across the line in 2nd. Another good result for the Australians. And Canada, well, yeah, they've gained places in this, which they really needed to, because they lost a lot of boats in race 1, but Phil Robertson, he's going to be encouraged. That Canadian boat's moving through the fleet well, and we can see behind it's tight.
Great umpires, USA boundary penalty.
Oh, and the Americans were sitting in 4th, and they will now drop back, losing that position of 4th to Great Britain.
20-meter loss there. Good result on board Canada. They'll be happy. No, there's still plenty to work on board the boat there. But yeah, Great Britain, another 4th. What a comeback. Remember, 1 lap ago, they were last. So when the pressure was on, they found a bit of space. It got going quickly. Those points could be absolutely crucial. As we can see, the French, they'd looked infallible for the last few events, but sat in 6th at the moment. going to start to get a few questions on that French boat, maybe.
And the Americans go up to 5th, so they've got an 8th and a 5th, so they're trending in the right direction. But boy, they could have used that extra point, Stevie, if they could have gotten 4th ahead of Great Britain.
Yeah, look at the French. There's an error on board the French. First time we've heard it heated for a few events on board the French boat there. And I think this gusty, changeable wind, it's really challenging the crews. Not a lot of practice time. How can you keep the boats calm, and how can you keep the boats sailing smoothly?
And Switzerland comes through as they finish in 7th. So one back from what they did in race number 1, a 6 and a 7 for the Swifts. There you see the Danes trying to figure this thing out. What a conundrum, as the Danes will take 8th.
It just shows that, I mean, that's the great thing about the sport, really. The wind, the course is always changing a little bit as the wind shifts. If you remember, New Zealand did it in one manoeuvre. Right. The wind's changed direction a little bit. Suddenly you've got to do it in 2. The crews have got to be thinking. They've got to be responding and reacting all the time. It's not a simple racetrack. It's always evolving.
And Spain comes home in 9th. So back-to-back 9th place finishes for Diego Botín, his 2nd race here after racing in Sydney. And what a race. Race number 2 is now complete.
We've heard a lot of the teams talking on the water about how small the start box is, but the Kiwis made it look easy. They've attempted another slingshot. They're up in the foils with 20 seconds to go to the start, while the rest of the fleet are all down together off the foils. The Kiwis see the open space at this bottom end of the line. It's not favoured, but they have clear breeze. They manoeuvre their way down closer to the fleet, but giving themselves space. They're able to accelerate freely and stay in control of GBR, who are above them. As they get close to the line, the gun goes 200 milliseconds to cross the line at 73.5 kilometers an hour.
Well, that's the beer, the bang, and well, that turned into then this titanic battle on this upwind leg. It was nip and tuck. Burling there had to choose to go behind, but as is so often the way, a small turn loss can turn into a long-term gain. He came back with the right of way at gate 3, and from here on in, they were able to pick their own course, and despite the Australians never letting up, they managed to keep the pressure on for the Australian boat. Australia tried to force things. Big mistake as they tried to push that manoeuvre around the mark there, and that was it. At this level, racing a team like New Zealand, one mistake, and it turns into a huge, huge difference.
Somewhat anticlimactic as the Kiwis came across in front of their home fans in packed grandstand style. On the South Island, this is the hottest ticket in town. A complete sellout for day 1 of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix here in Christchurch, as Littleton Harbour is definitely the place to be on a beautiful day. So 2 races now complete, 1 more still to go, and we'll give you the results on race number 2, and then we'll tell you who has the lead. And right now, the Kiwis look to be the most consistent team as they get the win in race number 2. Australia finishing in 2nd, Canada in 3rd, Emirates GBR moving up to 4th, and the United States in 5th place. And it's France, winners of race number 1, Switzerland, Denmark, and Spain rounding out the fleet for race number 2. Now down on the water with Pete Burling and New Zealand. And Pete, what a start. You guys had a great run there. Really never threatened. The Australians gave you a bit of a look. What is the strategy now going into the 3rd and final race of the day?
Yeah, we've been obviously struggling with the starts a tiny wee bit, just finding it hard to get through the traffic down to the leeward end. Obviously didn't give any warp. It's great to get a good one off the windward end there and kind of be 2nd down to Mark 1. So. Well, yeah, we'll change a few things up, but hopefully end up with the same result.
Pete, you, to my eye, you look like you're the fastest boat out there at the moment. Is that a flight controller day or a wing trimmer day out there? What's making the difference on board?
You're not giving me much credit, mate. But I think the whole team's, really excited for today, and the boat feels really nice and easy to sail, and I think that makes you look good technically as well. So we definitely feel like we've made some on the racetrack just to put the boat in a good spot and let everyone on board make it go fast.
Pete, I'm not sure you need credit from me, mate. There's 3,000 people on the shore seem to be giving you a lot of credit. What's the atmosphere like out there on the water?
Mate, it's so cool. Obviously that last race we ended up going right in there off the bottom mark, and it's just amazing to see so many people cheering.
Well,
just a beautiful day here down in Christchurch, and couldn't have asked for anything more.
Pete, it looks like a great spectacle. Thanks for joining us. Get back to nailing that start in race 3.
Peter Burling and the Kiwis in control as they now have a second and a first as the fans anxiously await the third and final race of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch on day number 1. Let's go back and have a look at some of the highlights from race number 1, Stevie and Emily, and race number 2. It is all to play for in race 3 now.
Yeah, well, the highlight, of course, they came out swinging after a great result in Sydney. The French, they really hit the start line well. They found some space. And, well, if you didn't have space, you needed to be tactically sharp. And I've got to say that that was Pete Burling. He found some really good space on the racecourse and got going fast, Emily.
We had so many tight crosses as well, and it was really interesting looking at all of the different modings on board, especially between the French and the Kiwis.
Well, lessons were learnt by a lot of the crews out there, and Pete, he said, well, he made it hard on himself, saying he wasn't great off the start. He was second or third here at Mark 1, but right in the hunt again, and then it was really, well, it was the battle of the big dogs, wasn't it? Australia, Season 3 current leaders, New Zealand, Season 3 second place at the moment there, and, well, they headed off upwind, and for me, I think it was tactical good racing by New Zealand. He knew when to duck, he knew when to push it, but they're sailing that New Zealand boat fast. And as we got late on in the race, Emily, you could just see here, despite the fact they kept splitting the course, it just felt every time they got close, the New Zealand boat was a little faster.
Always with the extra pace, really smooth through all of their manoeuvres, and they just didn't get themselves into trouble. We saw a lot of the teams really pushing it on the foils, crashing down after the roundups, but the Kiwis just stayed cool, calm and collected.
And the Kiwis cross the line in first place, so they are looking very good with a second and a first as we take a look at the scoreboard after 2 races here in beautiful Littleton Harbour. And it is the Kiwis on top by 3, clear of their arch rivals Australia, who are the overall leaders here in Season 3. They're on 16 points. Emirates GBR sitting on 15, tied with France. And remember, the top 3 after 2 races tomorrow will be in the big final. Canada still in the hunt with 14. A lot of work to do, though, for the United States and Switzerland, Denmark, and Spain just cannot seem to come to terms with this course. But they've got 3 more opportunities, 1 more today, and then 2 more tomorrow before the top 3 will score off in a winner-take-all race. Right now, before we go racing in race number 3, let's check in down on the water. And Lisa Darmanin as she gets us ready for race number 3.
Well, Todd, it has changed a little bit out here. The wind is still up, but it's been getting gustier. So what I mean by that is the lulls are getting bigger and the gusts are getting stronger. So the teams are really going to have to adapt to that style of the racing, and they're going to have to change the strategy to make sure they stay in the pressure. The other thing that's happening out here is the finish line has moved. So we have seen those interesting finishes where the teams are having to make maneuvers, but now I think they're going to have a nice straight line to the finish. So once they get to that final gate, it's a speed run to the finish. So it's going to be another tough race. We know the start is everything, but there's definitely a tactical and strategic game out here.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. We're getting word now from the boat in the water, a French boat. They're having issues, and it sounds like, Stevie, they're saying the wing trimmer has no comms, so that could be very problematic.
Yeah, I mean, communication's the key here. You've effectively got someone driving the boat, someone doing the gear stick, and someone doing the pedals is how these boats work. And it's nice to be able to talk to each other in that situation. So if there are comms issues, that will be a bit of a handicap for the French crew. But you'd hope one that they will have discussed through with the coach how we can do it. Maybe hand signals. I'm not entirely sure what's the option, but they're going to have to find a way.
Coming up on 2:30 to go for the third and final race here in Christchurch, beautiful Littleton Harbour. And talk about a beautiful part of the world. We talked about the Impact League and what it means to SailGP racing for the future. As we get a message from Mel Roberts.
The course for race 3 is 7 legs. The course axis is 080. Wind is approximately 28 kilometers per hour.
So very similar to what we saw in race number 2, as we are now on 2 minutes to go here in Season 3 of SailGP. This is event number 10, and remember, the grand finale coming up in about 7 weeks' time, May 6th and 7th. It'll be the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final in San Francisco, California.
Oh yeah, Todd, and you talk about the Impact League. We're here in New Zealand. This is a first time trialling some new automated race marks. They're at Gate 2. They're out there on the water first time at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix. They've been developed by SailGP Technologies, and it just means we can move our whole course around. They're powered, you know, by nature, solar powered, batteries out there, keeping the marks in position, and could be a real breakthrough for our racing.
All about leaving a negative carbon footprint in this beautiful part of the world.
But it also prevents us using anchors, which means the seabeds are left undisturbed.
All right, 1:15 to go for the third and final race here. Remember, 2 more races tomorrow before the big final. That's the top 3 boats. We'll only be racing in that one. Stevie, this is definitely go time. You'd love to end day number 1 with a high, with a win. So teams down at the bottom, teams like the USA, maybe Swiss, Denmark, Spain, big time for them to go.
Big time. I mean, what caught my eye, Todd, was the fact that the top 4 overall in the season standings are the top 4 after 2 races here in New Zealand. This is an aggressive move, a different strategy from Burling. He talked about wanting to get to the end of the line that's in the middle of our screen, what we'd call the downwind end of the line. That would give you the inside run at Mark 1. Burling's changed his strategy up. Jimmy Spittle's changed it up to the left-hand side as well. But who's got it right? As per usual, Australia, they're leading back. He loves having that control.
Boundary penalty, New Zealand.
Oh, wow. Unforced error. That is not the change of strategy you want. New Zealand are going to have to start behind the fleet. That's crucial here, but here we go. Australia, Great Britain and Denmark, they're in a good position at the moment. We're lining up. Australia heading well in for the bottom of the line. It's going to be Australia or USA. Here they come. Let's watch Jimmy Spittle on board USA. He winds it up. 7 seconds to go. How's your timing, Jimmy Spittle? Line's going to turn white. Perfect timing there by Phil Robertson and Canada again, but the USA coming in like a raging bull towards Mark 1. Is he going to be fast enough to get round the top?
80 kilometres an hour of boat speed for the Team USA at the start gun.
It's a raging pit bull for Jimmy Spithill as he is looking to grab hold of a win here to wrap up day number 1. It's the Canadians that make the turn first. France also diving underneath the Americans, but the Americans have a lot of speed and they put themselves in a great position.
Great position, Todd, but they're on the outside of the wheel as they go round here, and they're now totally controlled by those 3 boats inside. They must keep clear. They must wait for those boats to turn first. Jimmy Spittle's in a tight position now, and it's going to be Canada leading the fleet away. Australia have already split away, and we'll see how that works out for them on the run down to Gate 2. But right now, things should be easy for Canada as Ben Ainsley's Emirates GBR. They need to see if they can split the fleet up and work their way back up the course. As New Zealand, look at the speed on the Kiwi boat. They were last after that start. The ladder line shows them in second nearly at the moment. They'll have the right of way when they come back together with the rest of the fleet here. Here we go. Great Britain must keep clear. France, you've got to be confident you're ahead. Delapierre's not confident, turns the boat, and it's going to be tight at Gate 2. How are the New Zealand boat doing this, Todd? They're so fast.
Dead last off the line, and now the Kiwis are in play.
Got to give room to the French. He does give room, but as soon as they leave that yellow circle, Delapierre must keep clear. Expect an aggressive move by Burling here. He's going to rotate the boat up towards the French as the fleet split away, and it's Denmark off the foils. That could be disaster. As the French, they turn, but they've got to... Oh, big mistake by Delapierre. He turned the boat straight into Australia. There's going to be a penalty there, surely.
This is the umpires. Penalty France relative Australia. Port Tech boat not keeping clear.
So Craig Mitchell doling out the penalty to the French as they will have to drop back. And now we have got a race on our hands. The final race of the day here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. Perfect conditions. This is an opportunity, Stevie, for other boats to pick up some points. And right now, it's Phil Robertson in Canada in control.
Well, it is, and I think you can see here the dark patches of water. Well, New Zealand ran out of wind there as we're going to come back on board the French. We're looking on board the French. He turns the boat, but he's not looked over his shoulder at the Australians, and suddenly they realise, oh no, we're going to have a problem coming fairly soon. He rounds up on the inside of the mark here. They're trying to set up to turn away from New Zealand, but in doing so, they turn straight into Australia. Unforced error for me, that one. And it's Canada and Great Britain, big gainers out of that, as there's more wind on that side of the course where New Zealand are heading now.
Canada at the lead still with 63 kilometres an hour of average speed. The British are slightly slower, slightly less fly time, but Canada showing us how it's done.
Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, top 4. Switzerland's in 5th. France now into 6th place, 1 spot ahead of the Americans.
It's good to see Canada learning through the day here. They're getting faster and faster. They should still lead here at gate 3, but New Zealand, they just don't go away, do they? Our ladder lines showing us how tight it is. The right of ways with New Zealand and Australia. Canada, you want to be pretty confident you're clear ahead here.
Hearing from Lisa Darmanin out on the water, she says right turn now looking favored at the next gate. That's gate number 3.
Right turn favoured, that's good news for Canada. But, well, New Zealand, they drop behind the British boat, but now the British are going to have to dip behind New Zealand and Australia here, and the Kiwis are right in the hunt. I mean, this boat, they are flying out here on Littleton Harbour.
And New Zealand not needing any more help right now as they've got a 2nd and a 1st, and they are looking for another 1st to put a stranglehold on this one as we go down on the water to get a first-hand report from Lisa Darmanin.
Well, I don't think the teams can bank on anything they learned in the last leg. It's definitely changing a lot out here, and they're going to have to be adaptable. I think the next gate, when we see the right-hand turn, that's dangerous. There's not a lot of wind where we see that big grandstand. So if I was a team out there, I would be avoiding that light wind patch and heading out towards those spectator boats.
Here we go, that's a good call. I think it paid really on that last upwind leg to be away from the shoreline. It was the Canadians that went that way. New Zealand got a bit stuck under the shore, and are now big gain for the Canadians. But look how fast the New Zealand boats moved away from Australia as Ainsley, he has the right of way, and Slingsby drop backs to 4th.
Quick throwback to that previous leg shows just how Canada kept that lead, 54 kilometre an hour average speed. The Kiwis, again, slightly shorter distance. We really are seeing these modes play into their strengths today.
Stevie, it's got to be a nervous time right now for the French. After winning the first race, they now pick up a 6th in race number 2, and they're sitting in 7th in race number 3. And remember, they don't have a lot of wiggle room because they're 1 point behind New Zealand in the overall and only 2 points out of that top 3 spot with Great Britain.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big players have come out to play here, haven't they? And the Canadians are doing a fantastic job. But when we think of the season as a whole, this is a great result for New Zealand as it is at the moment, and a good result for Great Britain as we see New Zealand have to turn the boat away. It's tight in the pack. France are back in the game there, chasing down Jimmy Spithill, and it's the Australians, the big losers on that downwind leg. They were so close to New Zealand, but they had a tight cross, had to dip behind Great Britain, and all of a sudden that's lost them from 3rd place, back to 6th.
And the first-time visit to New Zealand has not been kind to the Danes. They were sitting 5th overall in the standings, but they have come out with a 7th and 8th, and right now they are sitting in dead last in 9th.
That's Phil Robertson planning ahead. He's 2 or 3 moves ahead. I think you can do that when you're in 1st place. He's talking about trying to do a left turn at the top and then manoeuvre the boat away from that shore as soon as possible. He's got Isabella Bertol behind him there, giving him the strategy, helping him with that big picture. Of course, if you're in the strategist role, you've perhaps got that little bit more time to look out, as we see. No need to look here. Aggressive match race manoeuvre by New Zealand. He doesn't want to give Ainsley an inch. Burling sticks it straight in his face as they're coming upwind now. All the big move away by Great Britain. He will protest here, I'd imagine. Turbulent wind going onto the British crew at the moment, and we should start to see the British boats slow down here relative to New Zealand. They're hanging in there well.
Look at the speed dropping on Canada out in front, but their speed came down all the way to 36 kilometers an hour. Meanwhile, Great Britain and New Zealand picking up the pace.
Expect a simultaneous manoeuvre here. Great Britain will look to turn, but Burling will slam the door shut in his face, was my guess. And they're going to come back together at this final gate. Looks like good news for Canada as Great Britain and New Zealand are in a bit of a fight.
And look who else has joined the party. The Americans now up to 4th.
Basically broken one side of the rudder wing, so we got that one like we did last time.
Wow. Ooh. So there's some elevators on the bottom of the rudder there. It's obviously got some slight structural issues with it, which will make the boat feel, well, it's going to struggle to fly, but it's also going to feel very unstable there. That's why Slingsby's going backwards very, very quickly through the fleet here. Going forwards through the fleet quickly. Well, it's Burling and New Zealand, and when he meets up with the Canadians at the bottom of this leg, he's going to have the right of way. So, who can find the most wind on this final downwind leg?
But Tom Slingsby can afford maybe a stinker here, Stevie, because he had a 4th in race number 1, a 2nd in race number 2, so he's got good points. But if he can salvage a 7th or 8th of this one with a broken boat, that's going to be huge.
Well, He can also afford a bit of a stinker because he's some 12 points ahead of the second place boat in the season's points, but Tom Slingsby's brain doesn't work like that. He wants to be winning.
And you certainly don't want to be losing a race because of broken equipment.
And you don't want to come to New Zealand and lose to the Kiwis.
No, that is absolutely sure.
Back up at the front though, the Canadians are still leading the way and stretching that lead even further as they head back out to the middle of the course where there is more breeze.
Pressure on this last manoeuvre. Looks like they've nailed it.
So this is like 6 of 7, the third and final race of the day here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. And this will be critical as they come through this last gate. We've seen it tricky before. Now they have altered slightly, Stevie, the finish line here, so it might not be as hard as it has been on the first 2 races. But now Phil Robertson's got company in the form of Peter Burling.
Company, but we heard him say right turn straight in, so Robertson's confident. It sounds calm on board the Canadian boat, and they've done a great job. Let's be honest, they went from first to about 6th in race 1. They didn't look like they were sailing the boat well at all, and here they've had the informed New Zealand crew chasing them down, and they've held them off.
And in race number 3, it is the Crazy Canucks. The Canadians come to New Zealand and get the win. They claim race 3, 1 spot ahead of New Zealand, and Great Britain, they're moving in the right direction. They finished in 3rd.
Jimmy Spithill, he needed a good result, and De La Pierre, after that massive mistake, he's managed to get a 5th out of this. Good news for the French crew to get themselves in the game. Jimmy, well, he'll be happy with this result, but it's not going to be the day he wanted when you think of the season as a whole.
So the Americans have 2 5s on the day, but that 8th in the first race is really going to cost them.
New Zealand fans, what a great day to be a Kiwi fan. It was a bit of a masterclass as we see Switzerland coming across the line there in 6th. I think they'll be happy. They got themselves right in the fight there. They've got Glenn Ashby on wing trim at this event, who, of course, a big favourite in New Zealand. One of probably the great sailors on the planet coming to join the Swiss team. He'll be bringing a lot of experience on board there. And a good result for Diego Botin on board the Spanish boat. Tough conditions. He's had a really tough start to his F50 campaign, but that Spanish boat's going quicker.
Not the day one the Danes were looking for. Nikolai Sehested, they are in the hunt for the overall, currently 5th overall. But they've had some company now as they are on 57 points with the Americans breathing down their necks, and Australia brings that boat home. Remember, damage on board, a 9th for the 2-time reigning and defending champions.
Well, we'll get a bit of a review from the Australians as to what exactly has happened to their rudder winglets. Certainly not ideal, but the boat was foiling in well there, so hopefully something they can get on top of overnight. But yeah, Tom Slingsby's not going to like that, finishing in front of a New Zealand crowd as we see the race top speed, Emily. Wow.
88.2 kilometres an hour for Canada on that first top bridge. Brilliant.
So the Canadians get the win in race number 3. The Kiwis and Great Britain, your top 3. Let's take a look at the official results here in Littleton Harbour. Wow, topsy-turvy day, 3 races, 3 different winners, but in the end, it is New Zealand with a 4-point lead over Canada. Great Britain sitting in 3rd. France in 4th despite their problems in races 2 and 3. Australia and the USA, the top 6. And then Switzerland, Denmark, and Spain still looking to come to grips with the waters here in Christchurch. So everyone will debrief and we'll do it again tomorrow. So beautiful day 1 comes to a conclusion. Stevie, you've got to be pretty happy if you're the Kiwis as they go 2-1-2. And for Pete Burling and company, it couldn't have been a much better day.
No, I mean, I think Pete alluded to it in the last interview we did with him, that there's a lot of room for improvement on the starts, and I can see Ray Davis, the coach there, probably already evaluating what he's doing on the starts. But hopefully we'll be able to get down on the water and have a word with Pete Burling, the driver of the New Zealand boat, and find out what he thinks he can improve on overnight. Pete, I don't know if you can hear us, but another good result, good comeback, and what you're seeing as your main opportunities to work on overnight.
Yeah, we obviously had a really good comeback there again. You know, it feels like we're sailing the boat really well. Let's check. We obviously got that penalty in the Prix. Really good spot to finally have a go at the leeward end, and then just everyone to get rid of it, and then give ourselves an.
Pete, sorry, I missed the end of that. But what are the conditions looking like? What are the conditions looking like tomorrow? It was amazing days racing there today. Can we look forward to much of the same tomorrow?
Yeah, well, the forecast I was looking at last night had it a click lighter than this tomorrow, but I think it's pretty perfect, to be honest. It's such beautiful conditions.
Yeah, well, you're in Christchurch, home of the Crusaders, and you put on a bit of a winning performance out there in another all-black boat. Great to see. Hope you enjoyed your racing.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely amazing, and just a shout out to all the fans and people that are cheering us on this weekend. It means the world to us as a team. Seeing everyone on the grandstands there and just having a great time watching a good day's yachting. So now it's great we could get. Well, we obviously didn't have much of a build-up because of the dolphins on the course, but it was awesome they could do it.
People, we're looking at some very happy fans on the shore right now. You've given us a great show out there. Thanks for joining us so much today, Pete, and have a good rest.
Definitely worth the wait if you're a Kiwi fan, as the Kiwis come out and really put on a dominating performance. Race number 1, they finish in second. Race number 2, they get the win. Race number 3, they are in second place. And remember, 2 more fleet races tomorrow, and then the field is cut. Only the top 3 teams will race in the big final tomorrow here in Littleton Harbour, as the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix will come to a conclusion with top 3 boats putting on a show, and it'll be a winner-take-all situation. And Emily, if you're the Kiwis, you are sleeping well tonight because you have figured out this course.
You've never really figured out a course, Todd. There's still all to play for tomorrow. We don't want to think that, they're just going to sail away with the victory tomorrow. Let's keep it exciting and see what happens.
So everyone heads in now. The flotilla will make their way back in, and everyone will talk about what a great day they have. And the great news is we'll do it all again tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see what's being said, especially, Stevie, in the Great Britain tent. You've also got USA, Canada. They'll be talking about big things tomorrow. But, Emily, there is a lot to examine of what we saw just happen moments ago.
Quick debrief here of that final start. We heard from Pete Burling that they were going to try and mix up the start, try something different, aim for the preferred end of the line, but in doing so, they got a penalty. Meanwhile, the USA also switched it up and went for that slingshot maneuver, going for speed rather than prime spot. But what we really learned today, it was all about positioning. Canada hit the preferred end of the line and made it to Mark 1 first, while USA, despite being the fastest, got there in 4th.
Well, yeah, and I think it was all about New Zealand on the charge really today. I think, again, that first boat getting out in the lead, Canada stretched away, but New Zealand instantly had turned a disappointing start into being right in the thick of it at gate 2, and they put the pressure on the French, and the French did buckle. A double manoeuvre, double foul with the Australians, and yeah, from then on, New Zealand had a bit of space. They could use that boat speed that I think they've definitely got. Liv Mackay at the back of the boat was doing a good job picking the strategy. By the end of the race, they were breathing down those Canadians' necks.
All right, Emily, we're going to put you on the spot. What is the boat to watch for day number 2?
It has to be the Canadians. We saw them perform well in the first 2 races, but not quite getting that top spot. And then they came out firing in race 3, putting everything together to take that race win in what was really tricky conditions, and saw some of the best teams in the racing dropping off the foils.
Stevie, if you were a betting man, who would you be putting your money on tomorrow other than the Kiwis? Taking that one away from you.
I think I'm only putting my money on the Kiwis, Todd. I'm keeping it in my pocket if not.
Well, we'll see if Pete Burling and company can get it done. They will have it all to play for tomorrow in firm control of this regatta. And we will have you at same time tomorrow, day number 2 of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix, Christchurch from beautiful Littleton Harbour. So on behalf of Emily Nagel, Stevie Morrison, and Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris saying so long for now. We'll see you tomorrow for day 2. It's going to be a great day in New Zealand. Welcome to the breathtaking Littleton Harbour on the South Island, New Zealand.
And we're going to be racing here in Christchurch.
Let's get going.
Has Australia got the room inside? It's really tight. Burling's pushing it.
The French draw first blood. Coming across the line is the Kiwis. And in race number 3, it is the Crazy Canucks